Well, hello, creatives, community, and kind folks. Welcome to RPG with DBJ. I am your host, DBJ, and thank you very much for being here on this side of the interwebs where we talk about hard science fiction mixed with tabletop role playing games and some other geekdom in there. And today we are doing another. Ooh, I hear a bird, and it sounds strangely close. So today we're going to deal with another Fermi paradox, and I would have to say that I think this one is probably a little closer to home, and hopefully this I won't take up too much more of your time. I know I always say that, but as we go past an hour each day, but I will say that uh, I I'm always intrigued uh, by various types of issues. And I'm also inspired by those same things. And I like to share my inspirations. And I'm actually thinking about maybe you might do something a little different. Like instead of the camera on me, I'll get the camera and focus it down and use. I have a ton of inspirational objects for tabletop role playing game, from dice to cards to books of art and things like that. Just a whole bunch of stuff. And actually, kind of thinking about sharing that as well. And I'm not actually certain how I would do it, but I thought I would maybe just do it by seat of the pants because that's what we do here. So this Fermi paradox, I think, is more closer to the truth than I think we would like to believe, and that is that intergalactically speaking, we as a society that can reach out to the stars to detect alien life and what is going on out there, that we are basically very young. And with a simple, um, the closest star system to us is Alpha Centauri. And and this is according to Brainly, it would take about 8.74 years to receive a reply from Alpha Centauri using current technology, with 4.37 years for the message to reach there and another 4.37 years for the reply to come back, give or take the time it would take to send a message back. And one of the issues that we have here is that, like with the SETI program and the search for extraterrestrial life, um, it just makes it. There's just this idea that maybe we are so impatient, and rightly so, that we want to discover other alien civilizations, that we want to send out a signal and say hello, and we want to get a wave back. We want someone else out there or something out there to say hello back to us. And that intergalactically speaking, this generation, could send out plenty of signals to say things to aliens. Maybe it's just that they haven't received that information back, or they've already received it and they are currently communicating with us, but within our lifetime and our lifespan, um, we just won't hear that message back. And I'm about to sneeze. Excuse me. Whew. And unfortunately, that's a little bit defeatist, right? Like, wow. I mean, it feels a little depressing too. It's like, great, we can send all these messages. Hello, aliens out there. Hi, how are you doing? And there's always the jokes about aliens listening to or watching our sitcoms, or discovering our internet before we get a chance to explain ourselves. um, and things of that nature. And that is a little bit depressing, of course, because you're like, wow, hey, aliens, before you judge us, could you at least give us an opportunity to shake hands first and make a really good second impression or something? But it may be that, with just because of the speed of light, that the closest star system to us, if there was life there, still would take you know um, 5 years to get there, and another 5 year turnaround, or 4 point something years to turn around, 0.74, 8 3/4. Um, and that would just be a simple version of like, hi, how are you doing? So it feels a little bit not backwards, but like many of the ideas of us humanity moving out into the stars requires one of the ideas of ancient man about 7 generations, and it's the idea that what we do now impact we should consider ourselves and 7 generations of ourselves into the future, and that as an intergalactic society, us moving out to the moon and Mars and Venus and our own solar system, to consider our impact now and our signals out now and the communications we have now, to send them out, that if we were to get a response back, a legitimate like, hi, how are you, we didn't think there was anyone either, response, that we might not live long enough to get that response back. And so one of the tenets of transhumanism and posthumanism is that we will end up getting life extension. We will come up with technologies that will give us effective immortality, meaning like being able to download our brains, and eventually become operating in mechanical bodies, and eventually stasis, hibernation, cryogenics, that kind of thing. And then eventually we might be able to develop more of a biological immortality, that we are born and then can stay relatively healthy and mature in our own human bodies to send out a signal and not worry about the fact that it's going to take dozens, hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of years to simply get back minimal amounts of information. And I can see how it could really depress people, depress individuals about contacting them. But we can still listen, we are here for inspiration and world building. So it is possible for us to use the Fermi paradox, which actually tells us why we don't see aliens, and use that for our own world building efforts. So here are some ideas that I think, of course, this is always done with minimal notes and just top line thought, high concept thoughts that I hope you guys can steal and be inspired by thinking of things, especially things that are in like a null space. When you are, when you have a writer's block, when you're stuck for ideas, where can you go? So one of the things that we can do is take advantage of the null space. So in other words, I can imagine there would be many factions, including how people perform things today, that the lack of information doesn't mean there's a lack of influence. So an example would be that, dare I say, there are very many individuals who have claimed that they've heard messages from deific personifications, God and other deities from different pantheons, and wholeheartedly claimed that these messages were sent directly to them, and only they could decipher them, and to give that message to the outside world. It would be very easy for a scientific minded faction to take advantage of the fact that people are awaiting on bated breath to hear messages from alien source, and for someone to go, yeah, they responded, let me tell you what they said. And excuse me, and others going like, oh, really, they said that, tell me more. Now, of course, scientifically we would say, well, in the scientific community, wouldn't there be multiple levels of um, of analyses of some of these messages? Like, you can't just say you got a message, much like discovering new stars and planets and things, that oftentimes in the scientific community, you take that information, you put it out there, and other scientists then use that information you put out and go, let me see if you're correct. and it's a constant churn of um, of analysis of second and third and fourth parties over and over and over again, going, yeah, this person really did discover a planet or really did get a message, but that still doesn't mean that there can be confirmation bias. Um, Also, it could be possible, especially if we have advanced towards the idea of sending out satellites and even generation ships or AI, both mechanical and biological agents out into space for long periods of time, that maybe the player characters are third, fourth, eighth generation individuals awaiting the signal's return after the previous generation sent signals out. And the players are playing characters in a world where those signals are now arriving back after that amount of time. And what would that communication be? Even if there's no physical representation of aliens, if they send a signal back, and I'm pulling this a little bit more from the movie Contact, more so than the televised version of like the three body problem. But both of those are like our generation. Signal goes out, signal comes back. Aliens have contacted us. What do we do? And this paradox, this Fermi paradox, basically says to us that we're a little bit too adolescent. We're too young. Uh, Maybe everything that we've been doing up to this point in our history um, has is useful and has been productive. It's just taking a long time for those alien civilizations to contact us back and go like, yes, 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 I know you keep sending out signals. Type, type, type. The aliens are like, yes, we got your signal. Sheesh, calm down, right? Um, yes, we're enjoying all your sitcoms from like the 1950s and 60s or something. Take it easy. We're still catching up, right? Uh, the Yanking says, what if aliens think they've been communicating with us, but they don't understand science? They've been praying messages to us, right? I mean, and that's, I suppose this does, I guess we can fold this into the other Fermi paradox, which is the fact that we are so young that we think like, how many scientists have been like, well, other aliens are going to communicate with science and math, and as long as we use math and physics and science, they'll communicate with us, and there's no guarantee of that. Right? The or Maybe there's certain wavelengths of light or radiation or something that either we can't detect or we don't use as our communication, but they use it as a communication. Like the N King says, what if they're praying to us? What if they communicate through pheromones or neutrinos or wavelengths of light that we just can't see? And like, for example, um, during a question and answers video with a Science of Futurism with Isaac Arthur. I know I talk about that channel all the time, but I really love it. But anyway, he mentioned the fact that we are looking out into space with the JWST satellite, that telescope that we have, and everyone's looking for the most interesting star clusters and such. And he made a point like, well, there could be alien civilizations that have built Dyson swarms and or Dyson spheres, and their star, uh, a Dyson swarm or Dyson sphere could be reducing their star's output to very low levels of infrared radiation, because that kind of civilization that builds an entire community around a star would block the star. Uh, don't know what that means, although I don't. Let's see what shows up here. Don't. Oh, don't know what that means. Oh, maybe you mean aliens appearing in the chat. That could be possible. But we're looking for the most interesting things, but maybe alien civilizations are behind very boring, very dull infrared radiation because they're just giving off heat from their society, and we just can't detect it. So yeah, it's very easy for an alien civilization, even if they're very close to us, to be like, well, maybe they're communicating, but they're doing it, maybe they're sending out their thoughts. And to each other, they're just like, why can't they hear us? We've been praying our thoughts out to them, and they just don't. We communicate with each other across various wavelengths. Why can't they hear us, right? Or maybe it takes very long for their own signals to get to us, and then we just need to figure out how to detect it because we're so young. Also, we're, time scale has a lot to do with the thing, right? So maybe there's a wavelength of energy that oscillates at such a rate. Like, what if it oscillates every 70 years? And yeah, the universe is a big place, lots of room for stupidity. there's that too, right? I mean, it's lots of kappa. It's so funny when the it's so fun when the emojis, like they put the written word in instead of like blasting emoji up there. I think that's just because of how it comes through in restream. But anyway, yeah, I mean, we as humanity are like, we're brilliant. That means the aliens must be brilliant, and then the aliens are just like, we have no idea what you're talking about. Like, I. We see the words you're broadcasting. We don't understand a damn thing you're saying. Also, we could be compounding and actually confusing another alien civilization. For example, I remember watching, this was back in late 80s, early 90s or something. I can't remember the television show, but the television show aired as if it broadcast itself as if it was real. So it was filmed and it was done very similarly to the radio show about aliens invading Earth. And during the show, there were human beings that were receiving signals from um, receiving alien signals, and someone realized that the human beings were sounding like they were confused, but they weren't confused. When you translated what the humans were saying, they were saying sentences, but every word in the sentence was from a different language. Yeah, Darkness says the bubble of Earth signals in space terms is not that big at the moment. Yeah, exactly. I mean, we're sending out signals, but how far have they gotten? And at what range have they gotten? And are we just scattering signals, or does an alien civilization want us to focus those signals in a particular location, or are we just scattershotting? Like, is it so? Are we so uh, uh um vague in our radio broadcast that it's just pretty much it comes across as, I don't know, it's like static. It's like, I mean, can they tell the difference between English and Chinese and uh the various Indian dialects, and and then all of our we also have a lot of like metaphor and simile and terminology and slang that we could be broadcasting by accident, that other alien species are just like, we what are you saying? I don't understand it. Yeah, speed of light and all that. Yep, I see you, Darkness. Dead Man says could be like explorers. The aliens meet a bunch of kids and have a bunch of fun with them for a while until their parents find the alien ship, and the aliens have to confess they are just children. Yeah, yeah. We don't know. We may not be able to detect whether we are talking with children or adolescent or mature aliens, just like they may not be able to detect whether they're messing with us. Now, I'm sure with some intelligence in alien explorers, right, it could be possible that they do realize it. But I mean, there's always the fun thing. Remember um, the idea of Transformers, right? in the idea of Transformers, they're just like, oh, that planet's full of technology like we have. And why are the machines carrying around these little biological sacks of liquid? I don't know, but apparently the technology keeps spreading across the planet. We should go there, right? Um, Fun for a cartoon, but in a way, it does make some kind of sense, right? Like, who's to remember we talked about tardigrades and other things like that? Maybe they're just like, the aliens are like, well, they're sending signals to us, but every time we try to communicate with the bacterium, they don't send us back what we're trying to hear. You know, those sacks of fluid keep talking to us, but we really want to talk to the bacterium. And you know, sorry, I was about to cough so badly. The Inn King says, I'm imagining a species that communicates seismically. Wow. Draw a line in the sand, and the line isn't language. The vibration it sends through the earth is. So we're reading their messages incorrectly. Yep. Yep. I mean, hell, our gravity has an enormous effect on the earth. The earth's um, tidal forces, the way the moon and the sun and the other planets interact with each other. There could be aliens that communicate through gravitational forces, and we just can't read it yet. To this day, we're still trying. Scientists are still trying to discover Planet Nine. It used to be Planet 10 or Planet X, and its gravitational pull. If aliens are using like gravitons as a method of communication, we could be saying like, why are we getting more earthquakes? Yeah. So yeah, I'm going to pronounce your name XCat. Uh, Says so. Apparently, Earth signals have only reached about 75 star systems. That's not a lot compared to the immensity of the universe. That's not a lot of star systems, and it only it only takes an alien civilization to be one star system away from a star system we haven't reached for us to not see them. So whatever we have, whatever method we have of detection or communication or whatever, I mean, it would be like walking down the street and I don't know, finding your dream home. And the all it takes is for you to walk or drive one more mile to find your dream home. And it's like, and you keep going like, every time I keep moving, I can't find my dream home. But it's there, it's just around the corner, and you just haven't reached it yet. You know, if you stop moving, or you stop driving, or you stop walking, and you just see sale signs for homes, and you're like, I won the lottery. I can buy any dream home I want. But you've looked at 30, 50, 200, 5,000 homes, and you're like, I haven't found the right one. Well, maybe there's just one more. And so, yeah. XCat is correct, or cat is also fine. Thank you. Thank you very much. I try to be respectful, but I also like to be a little bit sarcastic. So bear with me a little bit. The movie Arrival is a good one to watch about alien language interaction. I love the movie Arrival. That is a brilliant depiction of aliens and humans trying to understand each other. Now, could a spoiler alert for Arrival, could an alien language affect our way we think about space and time? I don't know, but that would be so damn cool, right? Especially with aliens that aren't they just aren't human. You know, their ability to communicate, like we think of communication. Oh, here's an example. We think of we have our communication visually and through our senses, meaning like we see things, we hear, and then we've developed a way to communicate using both through video or for radio or something like that. But if the alien race can't understand what it means to see the way we see or hear the way we see, then we're like we're sending out probes and signals, and the aliens are just like, I get, hey, humanity, I get you're trying to communicate, but I don't understand what you're saying. we see in the infrared. Send us some infrared messages. Or they're sending infrared messages to us that we can't understand, and we're sending out radio signals to them and they can't understand. And just like, stop sending radio signals. We keep sending infrared pulse messages to you. Will you please pick it up? And the humans are like, all I'm picking up is infrared background radiation. Oh man, you know, boring. Let's send out another radio signal, right? Now, for this is primarily a tabletop role playing channel, even though it really comes across as not. So, how can we benefit from this? Well, one of the things, like the movie Arrival and Contact, is that the best part may be the players themselves are the intermediaries between one and the other. So, for example, what if there are liars out there that claim that they're getting signals from Earth, and the player characters have to discover, all right, is this faction really getting information from aliens? And if they are, how and why and in what way are they using it? Or maybe, of course, if they're liars, the players have to um, alert the public that this isn't true when the public may be thinking it's true. The other thing may be who gets to who receives the message and who gets to decipher what the message is. So in the movie Arrival, we do have competing governments, and those governments are trying to hold information close to their chest because of safety reasons and border security and things of that nature. And yeah, Kat says a heist encounter, but the goal is to steal alien intel is one hell of a prompt. I love that because first of all, first you have to figure out, because I love heists. I love like players needing to figure it out. And I'm going to talk about some more Blades in the Dark. You guys know I love myself some Blades in the Dark. But so the heist, a number of complications. I'm sorry, stacked complications make heists really cool. So first you have to figure out who has this information. So are we doing this on Earth and we're going like we're doing a travel log, like spy work, like Jason Bourne, um, 007, Black Ops, like going from nation to nation, France to Madagascar to Thailand to Australia and back to Chile, and then whatever. Like, are you doing that, or is this more intergalactic? We're going Mars to Jupiter to Saturn and the various moons and things like that. So you need to know where you're going, and then you need to know which faction has it. So is it a government or a criminal organization? Maybe it's held by hackers or a a a faction of a faction, right? So a government gets this information, but a portion of the government's like, we're going to take this and use it ourselves. Is it somebody like rich and famous and happens to be like a hyper trillionaire or something? Or is it a ham radio operator that just happened to, the aliens are like, we don't trust none of y'all, but that dude with his own telescope in his backyard, we're going to talk to that person. And it could be a race to find this person and how important they are, or the aliens think this person is important. And so absolutely. Yeah. Kat says collecting fragments of a Rosetta Stone type object for an alien language could be a cool campaign plot. Yeah. Yeah. Rosetta Stone, maybe the aliens have sent us, like in the movie Contact and Arrival, maybe their first contact is to send us the very method it takes to communicate with us. For example, maybe it behooves us as human beings to send aliens technological plans to build a radio receiver. Like, hey, not only do we want to communicate with you, here's a cell phone. please build a cell phone on your end so we can call each other. Dial 1 and the call will go through. We have thumbs. This is what our hands look like. Use your thumb or thumb-like appendages to make a phone call. And then, of course, they get on TikTok and then get distracted and they just stop communicating. But you get the point, right? A Rosetta Stone type object could communicate, and like Arrival, what if the communication, dare I say, can drive a person insane in a non-realistic kind of way. Like, mate, what if the human brain starts to change based on the communication, which would be, you could make this a mechanical feature in your game where the players, let me just use a scale of 1 to 10, right? So the players to communicate with the aliens start out at a 1, barely communicate. 10, completely fluid. But as you start going up in ranks, your your attachment to humanity starts reducing. So my scale went up to 7 to communicate with aliens, but that 7 is a drawback to me to communicate back with humanity, because the way I keep speaking and thinking and talking, everyone's like, I don't understand what you're saying. And the human with the Rosetta Stone's like, no, really, I don't understand what you're saying. But the person, going back to this old television show, and I wish I could find the name of it, maybe as human beings, we start speaking in a polyglotted language of all languages around Earth, but using random different words in our language, and it just combines together. Because the aliens are like, listen, we can't differentiate between all your languages, so we just made up one big. We created a language out of all of yours to communicate. Yeah, mutating people to be more receptive of the alien communication, and thereby maybe it's a kind of a cool feature, like the players gain some kind of like new way of basically superpowers. It doesn't have, if we're talking hard sci-fi, a superpower might just be um complete and total um memory that never fails. You remember things perfectly. Or it could be, you can't move, you don't have superhuman reflexes, but time moves slower for you, and it starts to slow down. And despite the fact you can't really dodge bullets, but you can actually see them moving through the air, and you could kind of like, your eyes can kind of track them moving. You can actually see the flapping of like a dragonfly or a hummingbird's wings or something, and act and or react to such a thing. That would be kind of cool. And like I said, if you use a scale from 1 to 10, hey, roll that D10, and if you roll below 7 or less, you can really do the thing. But if you roll above it, it fails. And it's like, I want my number to go up, but it also means I'm detaching from reality or detaching from humanity or something. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, what's in between? The scale goes from texting to board collective. It goes from somewhere in between. I don't know how you would, texting is a 1, board collective 10. I don't know what's being completely distracted on your phone and ignoring everything around you as an adolescent. Is that like a 5? I don't know. I'm just being sarcastic because I'm a graybeard. I'm an old grognard, so bear with me. I'm like an old man. Get off my lawn. Um, but this is really interesting, even if it's not about alien communication. I mean, not specifically about alien communication, because the individuals who get to communicate will tend to have the power. Like, those who hold that close will get that power. Now, if the aliens start picking and choosing, or they send this ability to other places, the opposite of going on a heist to get that Rosetta Stone, the opposite of that might be eliminating everybody else that has one, or has the potential to gain one, or is inducted into this society that is able to read or understand, or like, we don't know today who can or can't, who has the flexibility, the mental, neural flexibility to learn maybe an alien language. But maybe the aliens are like, oh no, we can pick the proper people, but those people could be anyone. They could be like stay-at-home moms and homeless folk and small children and elderly and criminals in prison, and all, like, people that we wouldn't think of, because we're always thinking of the most brilliant, and they're like, no, we need the most neurologically flexible people, and those individuals may just have the special skills to communicate, but they've got their own problems or agendas, or they don't even want to be part of this intergalactic society. They're just like, I'm just trying to pay my bills. You have 5 layers of memes that communicate complex ideas with simple images. Ooh, that's not a bad idea. That's it reminds for some reason it reminds me of the artists that make the three-dimensional sculptures that when viewed from a particular angle have one image, but when you walk around the object, the image changes or you no longer see that image any longer. There, something similar was done in the Avengers Endgame when Nebula was held aloft and her body was ripped apart, and you get to see her from the front, from her face, and she looks normal. And as it pivots to the side, you realize her body is floating there and trapped and ripped apart. Her cybernetics are ripped apart, and it reminds me of that. Like, could you imagine the memes? Like the aliens are like thinking, like, just stack the memes together, stack the images and the sounds and whatnot. Like, and the humans are like, I don't understand, and they're like, just look at it. It's supposed to be together. What are you trying to take it apart for? Um, so yeah, that it would be pretty interesting for something like that to happen. Would also make it pretty interesting for the players to acquire, like in fantasy, like the rod of 7 parts or something. Maybe they acquire sections of information they don't understand, but when they get the 5 layers together, it's the aha moment, like, oh, and then that's transformative. Like maybe uh us being able to create fusion power, one piece of data, no, 5 of it and put together, yeah, then it gives us the ability to, like, fusion power or faster than light travel, or harnessing dark matter and energy or something like that. The Yan King says another idea: because the aliens are so brilliant, they're utterly unimpressed by our scientists and nerds. They want to talk to our tough guys. Yeah, they think our scientists are like, to them, our scientists are like bro dudes, because they're always trying to flex their intelligence, and the aliens are just rolling their eyes like, really? That would be very funny. They're like, so they're so brilliant that they're just like, we just want to have talk to like regular folk, regular down to earth. What is it? Rocket City is in here in the United States, in Alabama. Rocket City. Is it City? Trash Pandas? No. Is it Rocket City, Alabama? Yeah, Rocket City in Huntsville, Alabama. Change is constant, but tradition is never forgotten. Um, Supposedly, um, there was not a meme, and I don't know how true this is, but supposedly it had one of the highest concentrations of the highest IQs in the United States, something like that. Let me see. Let me do another search. Bama, um, rumors. Sorry. No, not that. I can't find it. It's not coming up. But there was something about that. It could be. It could be that um, an alien race may be able to detect capabilities in humans that we as humans don't understand, or we haven't had the ability to harness from humanity. And that would be a very interesting way for players to make characters that are inducted into a greater mode of thinking, but the actual characters don't have what we would consider as humanistic superior attributes. An example would be hell, and I know I'm probably misusing this term, but maybe there's something about people who are born or have suffered physical or mental defects, handicap or something. Yet we here may go, yeah, we why would we have them as astronauts? But the aliens are like, oh no, that person, or that group of people, we want to talk to them. Matter of fact, bring them along. And they're like, why would we bring somebody who's blind into a space station? And then the aliens are like, you don't see what we see, because that person's perfect for the way we need to talk to, right? We don't give that much thought, but I think about that a lot. Like, yeah, maybe the aliens who don't see things visually would have a better way communicating with someone. The aliens are like, oh, we look at the thermal, we look at a infrared thermal light, and a our blind humans relate much to the way they think, and maybe the brain chemistry has changed so much so that the aliens are like, no, we need to talk to that person who understands how we live. And the blind person is like, oh yeah, I get it. Doesn't confuse me at all. you know when designing aliens, it's important to think about how alien are they. Are they human but a little spicy? A little spicy, I like that. Or are they a hyper intelligent fungus that has a fluid sense of self and collective? We listen, and I understand this is because of this is a writing, and this is a math problem for depicting aliens in Star Trek. Um, but one of the problems with Star Trek has always been, it's the new forehead of the week, right? It's the they put makeup on a human being because it's cheaper. When I say math, it's cheaper. It's time effective. As writers for television shows, they're trying to tell a specific story or um, parable or something like that. Spicy humans, spicy. Yeah, just like, are they just humans with a little spice sprinkled on top, or are they really alien, right? And I love Star Trek, by the way. Um, but I get the new forehead of the day, right? Makeup on the forehead, spray paint the skin, put some makeup, give them some ears, um, whatever, and then because you can't do the whole body because it's expensive, just give them a uniform, a silver lame uniform, and you're done. Give them some robes, and you're done, right? Maybe we might even go so far as to give them gloved hands to make their hands, but we don't even have to do that. We'll just have them tuck their hands in a robe, and we're done. Um, and I get that, but it makes us think that other aliens are supposed to be very humanoid, and to think that aliens think differently and look different. Well, like you said, let me put this back up here again. Like you said, are they a collective fungus? Do they communicate through thermal imaging or pheromones, or is it necessary? Like, what if the fungoid needs to invade our body? Are we just going to open up our mouths and other orifices to allow an alien to come inside of us to communicate with us? Like, who would be willing to do? Oh shit! There is OnlyFans, so yeah, there would be humans. Let's just say that I don't know how many scientists would be like, let me pull my pants down. So you know what I mean? Like, it's and while I'm making fun, I am being sarcastic and making fun. Um, the thing is that our way to communicate with other aliens as a young species, yeah, yeah, only fun. Yeah, instead of OnlyFans, it's only fun. It's just like the aliens look at us and they're just like, "Did you just put mushrooms on a hamburger?" And they're like, "Yeah." And the aliens are like, "Can we just have you not do that?" And you're like, "Why?" We prefer you not to put our brethren on top of meat and pizza, please. Why are you shaving our relatives on top of? You're going to restaurants and shaving our relatives. Like, damn it, stop that. I understand that on your planet it's not sentient, but they could be for us. I mean, this actually goes to the idea of like an alien embassy, but it would be pretty interesting for like fungi to just be like all pissed off, like they start a war because they get to see like a really tall stacked hamburger. Like, yeah, I put sauteed mushrooms and onions, and they're just like, no, falling to their knees. Myconids and fungi people are just like, no. Uh, Kat says, if I recall, for Star Trek, they built that into the lore with there being a progenitor race. There is a possibility, another form of this isn't a Fermi paradox, but the idea of panspermia, that biological life um, has attached itself to meteorites, asteroids, comets, and that it has or will continue to spread throughout various galaxies by depositing itself onto various planets, that life on Earth may have come from another distant place from an impact, which I wouldn't put that against humanity, human beings having evolved from that. So it could be like a progenitor. I get that Star Trek is thinking more high minded, that a humanoid, ancient advanced humanoid race deposited humanoids everywhere. But it could be also possible that it's just an accident of evolution that's spraying panspermia type of genetics across galaxies. And we just happen to develop, and they just happen to develop with arms and legs and brains and things like that. So I wouldn't put it past the universe to do that. Um, but let's be honest, when it comes to Star Trek, yeah, did they go back and like retcon it? Of course they did. It's really about money and time and telling stories, and the writers are trying to tell a story. They don't have time to go, oh yeah, and also by the way, it requires them to. They're only 12 inches tall, and then they have to attach to your back and stick a proboscis in your ear, something like that. It's like, how do we do that in the show without it seeming strange? Yeah. For something like Mass Effect, the internal logic of why you see a lot of humanoids is because like attracts like on a large scale. And that may also be a that is another possible Fermi paradox. Like, I wonder if fungoid intelligent life finds other fungoid intelligent life, and then that humanoid ish life finds other humanoid life, and that we're just crossing paths with each other. That would be pretty interesting as well. Like you said about Mass Effect. Um, so, which also brings up the idea that with humans being young, other humanoid alien life might be like, finally, the other aliens are like, we've been out here for generations and generations. We thought we gave up. And they send a signal back to us. And as humans, we're just like, yeah, we haven't gotten the signal back yet. I don't even know if there's alien life out there. And the aliens are like, please get this message back. We just picked it up. We did a stop off in Alpha Centauri. It's only going to take another 4.5 years. Please wait. Which would be awesome. I mean, I even thought about the fact of something that's very rarely done in tabletop games and in science fiction is to making aliens parallel to humanity. So what I mean by that is we often very rarely see aliens with as many languages and fashion and body types and interests and arts and sports and science as varied as humanity. Again, there's logical reason why you don't want to do this in a role-playing game, why you really don't want to do this in a novel or a movie, because it's already complicated enough to insert aliens into your great American science fiction novel, but to make them as varied as humanity is would make sense. We've here talked about the astronaut problem, right? Like, when we send out astronauts, are they really a reflection of humanity, or are they the epitome of what we've recruited to send out into space. Like the aliens that may contact us and make that first contact, we're like, oh, they're really cool. And the alien astronauts are like, no, we're the cool ones. You kind of brace yourself when you meet our alien brethren, because they're not exactly like us. They're a little bit on the wild side. And to see some of the aliens have tattoos, and others listen to their version of heavy metal music, and then there's other aliens that are into science and futurism, while you have others that are like bro dudes in the sports or in the fashion. Yeah. The Yanking says, if aliens are long lived like elves, maybe they saw us as knights or conquistadors and then wrote us off, and have no idea we're now reaching their level of tech and science. That you know what? That's a a theory of ancient aliens, that aliens may have come to Earth, found out that we aren't technologically viable, and moved on after leaving behind some of their appearances. Like, for example, there's unexplained evidence of ancient cultures having seen people come from the sky, or have heads that look like animals, and other kinds of mythology, that these people saw them and then it just disappeared from their culture. And that, you know, hey Kylie, yeah, movies suggest that space truckers will probably make first contact. Well, you never know. And who's to say those space truckers aren't probably the best depiction of humanity than some high-minded scientist or some self-absorbed politician or something like that, right? Some highly militarized agent, and the aliens are like, could we just talk to those people over there? And we're like, you mean the people with grease under their fingernails and can barely get the stains out of their uniforms? Yeah, those people. We like talking with them because they're honest with themselves and others, something like that. But I do like the idea that if the aliens are long lived and they're just like, oh, they're medieval humans, never mind. Although it would be pretty interesting for the aliens to return after having left for many generations, and the aliens they think they're going to come back to a medieval society, so they've altered their way so they communicate us as a medieval society, and then they realize like they made a mistake, and they're like, oh shit, you did advance technologically, we didn't think you'd move, we thought you'd move laterally, not exponentially. And the aliens are all dressed up like Ren Fair or something. Aliens like, oops, I feel embarrassed. That would be pretty funny. That there's a funny this is an old SNL skit where aliens come to Earth, and the aliens walk out of their starship with like blunderbuss, and the aliens are like, we have highly advanced steam technology using coal, and the humans are like, oh well, we've got M16 that can fire 1,500 rounds a minute, and the aliens are like, really? Well, we have these weapons known as firearms, and they fire out projectiles. And the humans are like, yeah, we've got the same thing. The aliens are like, we have a advanced form of telecommunication that uses a electrical signal. We tap this device and tap it multiple times to make a signal with it, and then it's translated on the other end. And the humans like, we have something similar. We used to call it Morse code, but instead we've got cell phones. And they start to walk backwards into the starship like, all right, humans, we will take our advanced technology, steam technology back with us, right? It would be pretty funny. Although that actually is a plot in the three body problem, that the Trisolarans know that humanity is advancing exponentially, and that the Trisolarans want to wipe out Earth in 400 years, because in 400 years, humanity will probably outpace the Trisolarans in technological advancement before they get here, which I think is really cool. I haven't read the books, so this is just from the television show, which execution wise, I give it above a half. So on a scale one, I give it a 6. Well, for me, I'd give it a 7 because I do like high-minded, high concepts. Execution wise, yeah, you could have some problems with it. Uh, of course, we always know books are always better than shows because we are the director and actors and music in our heads, so books are always better because we make them personal to us. But yeah. But anyway, guys, thank you, Kylie, and everyone else who's shown up. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I really appreciate it. Here we are, just trying to use the Fermi paradox of no aliens and why we don't see them as fuel for our tabletop role playing games. I think having a heist in just being able to communicate with aliens would be really cool. I think having players uh, have some form of ability to communicate and using that as a you gain a benefit but you also gain a little bit of a loss. I think is really fun to use for the players to give them as a gift, but it can kind of work against them a little bit. And also I like the idea that the aliens might be just as confused and as separated as humanity in terms of communicating back and forth, and that there may be some kind of like factional. The players may uncover just as rich an alien faction as humanity, even if the aliens are humanoid, and come to find out that like, wow, they have as many problems as we have. Maybe we shouldn't go out into space. um, that sort of thing. So I like a lot of that, and also going to Blades in the Dark because I promised I would do that. Blades in the Dark has mechanisms so that you don't have planning sessions and shopping sprees where players basically are do nothing because of analysis paralysis, and it lets you jump right into the heist itself, and then you just flashback to the things the players needed to accomplish the heist in the first place to keep the action moving. So one of those, of course, is what I just said, a flashback mechanism. Another one is quantum equipment, and those two things together really help a heist move forward so that you're not waiting 45 minutes for your players to make a decision for them to finally just kick the front door open and start blasting people, right? For example, in Blades in the Dark, you decide what your load is, light, medium, or heavy. And in your game, whether you're using Blades in the Dark or not, you can decide like, okay, maybe a light load is 3 items, heavy is 5, and I mean light is 3, medium is 5, heavy is 7, or something like that, or come up with dice or whatever. And if you're saying I have a light load, I can only carry 2 items, you just don't write those items down until you say what the item is. Oh, I have a grappling hook. Okay, that's one of your quantum equipment that you needed for this heist because you came prepared. Maybe the other item is a uh, one of those uh, card readers that can you stick the card into the reader and you have a device that can um, decipher the code or something, or a fingerprint reader or an optical scanner or something like that. You're like, well, it's going to be an optical scanner. Great. Okay, you said your load was light and you have 2 items. That's it. And those are your 2 items. And then if someone says, "Why pull out a pistol?" You can't. You said a light load, and you go, "Oh, that's right." The other one is the flashback mechanism. So instead of saying, I talked to the guard and convinced the guard to let me through, or intimidate the guard, or bribe the guard, or whatever, trick the guard, deceive the guard, instead you could say, all right, the guard is in front of us. I want to flash back to a week ago where I saw the guard in a bar and then seduced the guard or bribed the guard or blackmailed the guard, so that now that we're in front of the guard's just going to look the other way. And your success on that, the guard looks at you, kind of puts his head down, slides the key card over and walks away. Or maybe the guard's like pissed off, slides the key guard card and is just like, F you, you got blackmail on me. Or maybe the guard just is like, gets up from the table and is like, I got to go to the restroom, and then leaves the keys behind or something. Um, or if a failure could be the guard leaves the key card and then under the desk hits the silent alarm at the same time, right? Like it could be something like that, and you could just make things more complicated and such, because it's not a pass fail system. It's a stacked complication system. Oh shit. Well, anyway, guys, I got to get out of here. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I just realized that my car is in front of my wife's car. So, guys, thank you very much for being part of the show. Yes, again, 6 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on this show, we talk about hard science fiction, and that sort of thing for tabletop role playing games. So, thank you very much. Have a great day. We are out. Bye. Thank you. Peace.